Olympia. Talk about some new bans that are proposed, some new laws that are going into effect, some new taxes that are being pitched at you, the residents of Washington State. We'll have that when we come right back after this.
For decades, KIRO Newsradio has been your go-to source for reliable news.
Traffic got worse in Seattle last year.
Seattle drivers squandered over $1,100 in lost time and productivity just sitting in traffic.
We're here to help guide you through the complexities of today's world, offering insights that allow you to see the bigger picture.
I want to dig into some of the numbers to just show you how much our transportation needs are being ignored and underfunded.
Trust KIRO Newsradio to keep you informed and connected.
It's hard to be a homeowner, we know.
Without American Crawl Space and Pest Services, it is hard to be a homeowner. Dave Ross here. American Crawl are the heroes to call for insulation and pest issues because in addition to their great reviews and decades of experience, they also give out the most PSE insulation rebates of any insulation company in the state.
American Crawl, the heroes you call.
Get your free inspection at AmericanCrawl.com.
Spring is officially here, and with it comes some unpredictable Pacific Northwest weather. This time of year, heavy rain can be especially tough on an old roof. An unexpected roof leak can be stressful. If your roof does spring a leak, Valentine Roofing has you covered with our Leak Stop Guarantee. We'll stop a leak in your old roof for free until the new one is safely installed. And we offer this leak stop service year-round, so you're never left scrambling for a bucket on your own. But don't wait for a roofing emergency. Schedule your free estimate now before you have the headache of dealing with a leak. Our estimates are straightforward. We'll provide you with an honest assessment of your roof's condition, along with our best price right from the start, all within about an hour of when we arrive. Call Valentine Roofing today, and we can get your roof replacement started with our priority scheduling. For roof replacements, repairs, and cleaning, call Valentine Roofing today at 206 Roofing. That's 206 Roofing to schedule your free estimate.
Thy ticket, Lady Jennifer of Coolidge.
Well, many thanks, good sir. Here'th my Discover card.
They accept Discover at Renaissance fairs?
Yeah, they do here. Discover is accepted at the places I love to shop. Getteth with the times.
With the times? You're playing the lute.
Yeah, and it sounds pretty good, right?
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But this one you need to hear. $16.5 billion. That's how much money in refunds the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud last year. Now, here's a good number. $100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. Oh, one last number. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit LifeLock.com for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the Lingo.
GOAT, G-O-A-T, acronym, stands for Greatest of All Time. As in, spaghetti sandwiches for dinner? They're my fave. Dad, you're the GOAT.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Will new tariffs impact small businesses? Rising costs and economic uncertainty can hurt your bottom line. But with Swish Funding, your business can stay strong. We offer fast, flexible funding solutions from $10,000 to $2 million for working capital, cash flow, and more. And as little as 24 hours with no collateral needed. If your business earns at least $50,000 per month and has been around for over a year, you could qualify today. Go to swishradio.com and use code GROW. SwishRadio.com, code GROW.
From office supplies to IT essentials, Amazon Business provides tools that help you save costs and make insight-based decisions. Learn how to bring your visions to life at AmazonBusiness.com.
KIRO FM and HD1, Tacoma, Seattle.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Steel.
I'm Cammie McCormick. The trade war between the U.S. and China could deepen in the coming hours. CBS's Linda Kenyon has more from the White House.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says additional tariffs at 50% against China are non-negotiable.
They will be going into effect at 12:01 a.m. tonight, so effectively tomorrow.
That means overall tariffs against China will rise to 104%, since China says it will retaliate. At the same time, President Trump believes China wants to talk.
If China reaches out to make a deal, he'll be incredibly gracious, but he's going to do what's best for the American people.
Adding countries are, quote, falling over themselves to work out deals as well. Linda Kenyon, CBS News, the White House.
Canada says its tariffs on U.S. auto imports will begin tomorrow. Wall Street's reaction to all of the back and forth? Confusion. CBS's Kelly O'Grady.
We have talks and hints at negotiation, but I think investors were really excited to hear that messaging that all of these countries were coming to the table, but there hasn't been any meaningful agreement.
The Dow finished 320 points lower. The U.S. and Iran will sit down this weekend for nuclear talks, which will not be a negotiation, according to the White House. The president's envoy will instead issue demands. Jennifer Jacobs reports.
The Trump administration will have direct talks with Iran on Saturday about its nuclear program. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said she can't discuss further details for security reasons. Leavitt said the message from the United States will be, you can strike a deal with President Trump, or, quote, there will be hell to pay.
The death toll from a roof collapse at a nightclub in the Dominican Republic is now at 44. Ukraine's president said today his troops have captured 2 Chinese citizens fighting for the Russians. There's been no response from Beijing. Russia has also been using North Korean troops in its war against Ukraine. In Kentucky, the rivers are cresting. The heavy rains have ended, but there's a lot of debris in the floodwaters. And Governor Beshear is reminding everyone they're very dangerous.
You not only put your life in danger, you put the lives of everybody who's coming to rescue you in danger. We need people to wait this out.
There's a huge cleanup ahead. The nation's highways are a bit safer, as Jeff Gilbert reports.
Highway deaths fell more than 4% last year to a total of 39,345. The numbers from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. This comes as the number of miles driven has gone up. Highway fatalities have now fallen for 11 consecutive quarters.
And recapping the numbers on Wall Street at the closing bell, the Dow Jones Industrials, after another rock and roll kind of day, they finished off 320 points. This is CBS News.
Steel walk behind, zero turn, and stand-on mowers are built to get the job done. Shop online or at your local Steel dealer. Steel, let's go mow.
A week after a deadly shooting at a hookah lounge, Seattle looks to crack down. The story coming up, but first, Lori Hardy is at the Beacon Plumbing Traffic Desk.
And traffic is brought to you by Bucky's Complete Auto Repair. We have an accident. It's northbound 5 right at 512, and it's taking up 2 lanes, a left and a right. Southbound I-5 from 130th in Northgate. Looks like an accident blocking that ramp. South Center now to Alderwood on I-5 is 33 minutes, so that's just a couple minutes longer than usual, and we're seeing a slow roll into Seattle. Starts kind of on the Ship Canal Bridge, and from Linwood, that's about a 25-minute drive, and I'm seeing a little slowdown as you head into Marysville, North 5, making it a 10-minute drive. All lanes are closed on southbound Highway 9 in Snohomish from Marketplace to 20th. Safety First comes with no credit financing at Bucky's Complete Auto. For oil changes, brakes, tune-ups, wiper blades, and factory maintenance, check the Bucky's near you. Bucky's.com. I'm Lori, real-time traffic.
KIRO Newsradio 97.3 FM, Northwest News. Now, the latest from KIRO Newsradio and mynorthwest.com.
Good afternoon, I'm Heather Bosch. A proposed crackdown on private lounges. New rules for private lounges just approved today by a Seattle City Council committee.
Erica Escatel pleaded with city councilors after her little brother, Francisco David, was gunned down outside a private Seattle lounge 7 months ago.
How is this always happening? Whose fault is it? The person who owns the establishment and takes advantage of no repercussions?
Last week, prosecutors say a 25-year-old man shot and killed 2 people after hours outside the Capri Hookah Lounge on Rainier Avenue South. If passed by full council, the proposed law would require lounges to get permission to stay open past 2 a.m. and would give police officers access, something private clubs are not required to do. Luke Ducey, KIRO News Radio.
New details on why 3 teenagers were found unconscious in a Skyway apartment last week. Bunja Hackett's mom tells KIRO 7 TV.
My baby don't have no memory, and every time he see me, he asks me, am I his mama?
She believes her son and the other teens took cocaine laced with fentanyl at a graduation party. She says the other teens who overdosed were sisters. One of them died. Pot shop wars? King County prosecutors say a local cannabis shop paid someone to damage a rival's billboard. More from KIRO News Radio's Frank Lindsay.
King County prosecutors say 28-year-old Cameron Scott O'Neill was paid $1,000 to vandalize a billboard that advertised for Evergreen Market cannabis. They say he used a box knife to do about $2,500 in damage. He's also facing charges in 4 graffiti cases. Frank Lindsay, KIRO News Radio.
A Tesla charging station in Lacey explodes. Vandalism is suspected. Lacey Police Sergeant Jeremy Knight tells KTTH.
Officers were dispatched to a report or reports of a loud explosion coming from the electric vehicle charging station in the parking lot of the South Sound Center.
No one was injured. The Mariners will be without their leadoff hitter for at least the next 3 months of the season. Center fielder Victor Robles was injured on this play.
Bailey with a swing and a drive. Deep to right field, down the line. Robles on the run. Running out of room, leaps up into the netting. And Robles is hurt on the warning track.
He suffered a small fracture when he dislocated his left shoulder. The Mariners say if no surgery is required, he'll need 6 weeks to heal and then another 6 weeks of rehab. This weather update brought to you by State Roofing and Exteriors. Rain today with highs in the mid-50s. It's 50 right now in downtown Seattle. I'm Heather Bosch.
Your best source for local news, serving Western Washington and the world with the KIRO News Radio app. Always streaming live on your smart speakers. You're listening to KIRO News Radio, Northwest News. It's the all-new Jake and Spike Show on KIRO News Radio.
Welcome back to the show. Mike Lewis in for Jake Squirm today. I'm Spike O'Neill. Washington state lawmakers rolling out a 1-2 legislative punch with twin bills aiming to snuff out flavored tobacco and light up taxes on cigarettes. And that kind of writing can only come from one man.
That's right. That's how I wrote
Our own Matt Markovich. This article on mynorthwest.com is there waiting for you. But Matt, first off, great writing. I love you. Tell me about what the state of Washington's legislature is doing.
Like the headline, taxed and axed.
Taxed and axed. Great writing. The state's going after flavored tobaccos.
Yes. They've talked about doing this before, but this would be a statewide ban on the sale of anything flavored tobacco. We're talking e-cigarettes, hookah, cigars.
Those little Zyn pouches, right?
Thin pouches, Zyn pouches, yeah, the nicotine pouches, which are super popular right now. Anything that has a flavor to it, that's basically the bottom line, could not be sold in the state, except at the tribal smoke shops.
Oh, no kidding. Okay, well, tribal laws are different.
Yeah, because it's a sovereign territory.
Yes, yeah.
So there would have to be a negotiated deal between the governor and the tribes on following this law if it were to pass. And I say if it were to pass, this is really late in the session. Let me put this in perspective for you. We all know that there's a $16 billion deficit, right? They're looking for ways to find revenue. This is a tax revenue because part of this bill includes a $2 per pack cigarette tax increase. Right now it's $3.02 per pack the state takes from the sale of one pack of cigarettes. It would go up to $5.02, $2 increase. So we're going to raise millions of dollars, despite if all the other stuff doesn't get sold in the state. This $2 pack would raise a lot of money. So that's why it's being proposed right now, because as long as they can get it out of the House or the Senate as a companion bill and get it all done by next Wednesday, it's still in play, even though it's so late in the session.
The goal behind the banning of flavored tobacco products is to stop youth from smoking, right?
That's the intent by the sponsor, right?
Yes.
And then she basically, this is Christine Reeves. She talked about her mom. She was inspired by her mom, who started smoking when she was 9, and then she died 60 because of her smoking. She did all her life, and so that's the inspiration for behind the bill. One of the reasons. But we've been talking. But also, vaping at schools is a really big issue. We had a school principal talk about. Let me just play that little bit. I mean, this is. I just find it kind of interesting. This is a school principal talking. I wasn't quite ready. Well, anyway, a school principal talking about how used to be smoking in the boys' room. The old Motley Crue song.
You bet.
Smoke. It's vaping in the boys' room.
Brownsville Station for the older listener amongst us. But
that's okay.
I hear you, but what? So, how much do they estimate how much revenue the state would lose if it bans flavored tobacco sales?
There's no fiscal note tied to this, so that's what we look for in terms of what they estimate it'll cost, and not so much in lost revenue, but in gained revenue. But there was no again. This was just introduced and talked about for the first time. I shouldn't say introduced, but talked about the first time yesterday. So it's brand new.
Why so? If it's so important, if the youth not smoking is such, and I'm all for, I hope this is the last generation that ever smokes. I think we're moving in the right direction. Why was that such a late addition? If it's so important to health,
it's a tax thing. This is all taxes. This is all about raising money. This is one way.
So is the banning of flavored tobacco to save the youth just a nice little smokescreen, if you will, to get us a $2
I guess you
increase
can look at it.
tobacco?
It's like typical legislation. You have one thing you want to do, but then you piggyback it with some other ideas, like banning all flavored tobacco, which it's been tried before. They've talked about it, but this is what they put the two together. We're at the last part of the session. See if they can race this through because they need the tax money.
I'm curious on so this is both flavored tobacco, let's just say menthols, for example, and also flavored vape juice of some sort. Was there any discussion about, so I understand vaping for very good reasons has a bad reputation, particularly because it became very, very popular among teens, while actual cigarette smoking has been dropping for 10 years. There's not a lot of teens adopting regular cigarette smoking. A lot of them are adopting vaping, but doctors would still say that vaping is better for you than actual smoking. In that it's still very addictive, and I am not making I'm not a vapor. I'm not advocating this, but is there any discussion about they would say, most doctors would say who study long pulmonary issues would say that vaping, generally speaking, has been a decent, at least, solution for people who were former smokers. Was there any discussion about making vaping even more expensive, making vaping a little harder to access? Or is this just strictly about trying to get fewer people both smoking and fewer people vaping? Or is this specifically targeting youth?
Well, there's a lot in that question there. It's specifically targeting youth. They think that if this passes, it will reduce youth smoking by 14%. That's the predictive value out there. But also
youth vaping, in other words.
Youth vaping, youth smoking, youth of
the
nicotine.
packages.
Anything that has to deal with
if
nicotine.
it tastes better, kids will try it. That seems to be the mentality.
The menthol part. They really focus on the menthol. I can talk about it later. But to try and answer your question, there was discussion, there was some talk by people who actually have vape shops who say they're providing an alternative to smoking. For people who want to get out of
argument,
who want to get off tobacco, they don't like the taste of tobacco. They don't like the smoking part of tobacco, and vaping provides that alternative. But I did not hear, and again, I wasn't privy to the entire session. Doctors saying exactly what you said.
So, was there any discussion? So the reason I ask this is that the backdrop to a lot of this is when Juul was under a lot of criticism for doing exceptionally high amounts of nicotine. And that's what was getting people addicted. And they found that in countries where they regulated the level of nicotine you could add to a Juul, England being a good example, that the youth addiction rate was way lower. We were not. It wasn't just the flavor; it was the amount of nicotine they were putting in, because you were feeling that craving after a few sessions with your whatever vape device you were using. It wasn't as true in other countries. It stayed sort of steady, the number of kids who decided to vape or decided to smoke. Was there any discussion along those lines, or is that like trying to, or is, and I don't know enough about this before I ask the question, whether or not you can at the local level restrict the amount of nicotine put in these things that make them so addictive anyway.
You can do that. And I remember doing those stories way back in the day with Juul.
Right.
And locally, the most addictive nicotine product at the time was called Legion of Plume. And I love that title.
Right.
But it had more nicotine in that thing, and it was unregulated. People were buying that off the shelf, especially because of the Seahawk tie. Yes, you can regulate that. There was no discussion in this. This was a black and white issue.
All right. Okay.
Flavored anything.
Seems like that should be part of the discussion, though. I mean, given that what you're actually getting, the flavor is pulling you in.
Right, exactly.
The nicotine is keeping you at the party.
It's the hook.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
The
So
flavor's
it
the lure.
seems like that would be part of it. Should be part of the discussion in this. I'm not against. I don't smoke. I'm happy with cigarette restrictions. Doesn't bother me at all. Extra taxes don't bother me at all as far as cigarettes go because I'm not paying them.
Yeah. Well, I think there was a cultural issue. Lamont Robinson, he came on, and he is
regarding menthols. That's true.
Menthols with the black community. That it's a big part of that. And what you're going to really hurt by this bill is the small business owner who sells a lot of menthol cigarettes to adults, not kids, but to adults. And also the other issue that I brought up was the tribes.
I was about to ask.
Yeah. In terms of
if they're only available on a tribal situation, those smokers are going to flock to these locations.
Or they're going to go across to Idaho and buy. They're going to go across borders and buy their smokes over there where they can buy anything they want. There's no restriction there. So is it really about money? Is it really about health?
Yeah.
Or, the tribes are, if they don't negotiate, if the governor, again, like I said, it takes the governor to walk into the tribal offices and say, I want to make a deal with you here. Please enact what we're going to have here if we pass this law. And the tribes really don't have to do that.
Another bill we talked about that was proposed is House Bill 2038. That's the profit from social media in Washington there's going to be a tax, a B&O tax added to social media. Companies that profit through social media.
Correct.
To go toward youth mental health.
Correct. Again, introduced for the first time and had its public hearing yesterday, late in the session. Another idea why it's late is because it raises money. This is I'm putting in a bigger perspective of why we're hearing about it now.
Right.
Because
the session ends like in April 27th.
We're 19 days away.
Yeah.
And they got so much to do in those 19 days. And here they're introducing these new taxes because, as Democrats have said, we have the governor saying, I don't like a wealth tax, so they're going to Plan B. They're going to Plan C. And these little taxes are Plan B, Plan C to raise more money. And this is one of them. So this social media tax is a additional business and opportunity tax on social media companies that have offices in Washington State. Facebook is here. We all know that. So they have an office here in Washington State.
Google as well.
Well, see, here's the big question about that. How do you define a social media company? That was a big problem with this particular bill because the bill defines it as an interaction between, people. I'm oversimplifying it, but you do that on a messaging app. That's interaction. WhatsApp. What's Snapchat?
It says companies that profit from social media in Washington State. If a company has a social media account that they market their business through, say my restaurant has a Facebook page that we use that as marketing, is that going to apply? Is that restaurant going to be subject to an additional B&O tax? Because
not the restaurant. No, the platform.
Okay, just the platform. It's not businesses with social media marketing. That's not okay.
I think this is going to be really difficult to collect.
Well, there's going to be a court challenge. The bottom line is, and it was brought up immediately in this, there's I'll make sure I call it correct. There's a federal law that was passed in 1998, the Internet Tax Freedom Act, which basically says if you're going to tax any internet company, it has to be even across the board. Doesn't matter whether it's eBay or PayPal or Facebook, Google. If you apply a tax to one internet company, declared an internet company, you have to tax everybody equally. And so what this is doing is adding an additional B&O tax on top of a B&O tax everybody already pays. So every internet company pays a B&O tax that operates in the state of Washington. This adds another B&O tax specifically for social media companies to raise money for a youth health fund.
Well,
specifically.
Go ahead. But if I could interrupt for just a moment, the thing about so the state is facing a deficit, and so that's the rationale behind a variety of these new taxes. And I understand that. And I understand also that sometimes you do need to raise taxes to pay for these, especially in a state without an income tax. But the odd thing about this one in particular is that that money is not going to the general fund. So it's not really going to have anything to do with the deficit. It's going to go into a new fund that is for youth or some sort of response counseling to youth.
Mental health for youth.
Mental health problems associated with social media, correct?
Correct, but you got to look at it, well, if we were going to fund this anyway, we would have funded this out of the general fund.
But we're not going to fund that anyway. It's positively linked to this thing.
Right, but so that way it gets funded. It may be on the chopping block if it came out of general funds.
Well,
which
no. But so you, I think maybe I'm not making my point clearly. You're creating it out of whole cloth, deciding to fund it with this tax. You can't then say that it might have been on the chopping block because they weren't going to do it anyway. They were only going to do it as a result of doing this tax. So this tax created a fund. That fund goes to get. That's all completely fine. I mean, if you want to do that, then I guess you're going to do that through this taxing mechanism. But the thing is that doesn't. I mean, it doesn't make any sense that that's not going to do anything to offset a deficit that already exists because that money is already earmarked. It's not going into the general fund.
Well, so it
doesn't have anything to do with that.
I follow your point of view, and it's not going to help the deficit. But
we're creating a new agency.
Well, because
we're going to fund a new agency out of this new tax.
I see it this way because there's a problem now because of social media companies, because how social medias are designed to target youth, which has led to an increase in mental health concerns and health concerns for youth.
Yeah.
And now they're going, instead of just dipping from a general fund to address this problem, they're going to the source of this problem and taxing social media companies because they're causing it.
I agree that social media has created problems for youth, 100%. I am not sure that I understand exactly a really complicated, if even provable, tax method to tax social media platforms in Washington state, many of which are corporations not based in Washington state, right? So they're going to have issues with even collecting that tax and then creating an entire new agency or sub-agency to deal with them. And I am not arguing against. I completely agree. I think that the solution, weirdly enough, is in another story where schools are starting to take away your phones when you're in there as a student. Like, I think there's a variety of ways of addressing this. And if it is through government mental health counseling, I don't have a problem spending money on that. But to create a new tax to pay for something with counseling that is not in any... What are they going to do? What is actually going to be funded by this that is going to move the bar at all for kids?
Well, if you look at how much money it's expected to raise, probably not. The fiscal note says $45 million over 6 years.
Exactly.
It's not.
Who is this going to go to, and in what way? Is it going to be more talking points for teachers? I mean, what is it going to? I mean, this thing is so short on details.
Well,
I'm a liberal person. I'm not reflexively anti-tax, but. I think this one is so vague from its taxing authority to its actual program. It's almost laughable.
Well, that's why it was Plan C. If it had been Plan A, they'd put more thought and forethought into it. I mean, I imagine it's fair to assume that there are mental health institutes and programs in place in the state of Washington to deal with youth mental health.
Potentially. I mean, I don't know. And I'm not arguing against that.
I know that there are. Our family has taken advantage of these programs.
Yeah.
These programs are underfunded, especially in a state that faces a massive budget
But this
deficit.
is not going to that.
This
is going to something specific.
It's going to the mental health care for youth.
For youth regarding the social media platforms. This is a new agency. New, not existing programs.
It's not agency, it's a fund. It's a fund, basically. Okay,
whatever. I mean, however it's implemented. I mean, the fact is that this is going there. When you decide to raise additional taxes through property taxes, let's just say, or through sales taxes, that's a general fund contribution.
Right.
That goes toward a deficit. This is not. This is creating a new giant sucking sound for that additional money. Now, I get it. And I'm not opposed to new taxes. Rarely will you hear me on a show saying this. What I'm saying is when I read through the bill, this thing is so insanely vague, everyone should take a stop and say, all right, problem identified, this isn't the solution.
Well done. Matt Markovich, thank you so much for bringing both these stories to our show.
Come in here.
This is fantastic. Mike Lewis, thanks for bringing that. All right, when we come back, let's talk about some issues. I wouldn't mind chewing on this one for another one. The Port of Seattle has asked the court to overturn City Council's SoDo housing bill because they think that high-density housing in the SoDo district is a bigger danger than the city thinks it is. We'll tell you what when we come back.
This hour is brought to you by Insulation Northwest.
KIRO Newsradio doesn't just report the news. We help you make sense of it.
People in this area, they have us. We can keep this guy honest. That's our job.
New media is leaving the old guard behind. Yes.
We provide the analysis and context you need to stay ahead in these fast-paced times.
That man is still on the loose, and Everett police are searching for him.
Seattle Public Schools look to boost graduation rates by 10% over the next 5 years.
Stay tuned with KIRO News Radio, where you'll find out why.
Hi, Spike O'Neill here for Sharp Vision Modern LASIK and Lens. Folks, it's been about 4 months now since I visited the offices over in Bellevue of Dr. Sharp and the team at Sharp Vision Modern LASIK and Lens. Because I had seen a diminished capacity, I needed readers. My eyes just weren't what they used to be. I got a full eye exam at their offices. They told me I had the beginnings of cataract, and I was a perfect candidate for refractive lens exchange. Now, I had a lot of questions, a little bit of anxiety because these are your eyes, and letting somebody get in there and monkey around with it was a little off-putting. The team answered all my questions, put me completely at ease. I had the same care team from start to finish. And in one afternoon, I had the procedure. It was completely unintrusive. I felt pretty great because I was, a little out of it at the time. But a couple weeks of recovery, and I've got the eyes, I don't even want to say the eyes of my youth. I've got better vision than I ever had in my life. Used to have 20/20 vision. I've got 20/10. I've got sharper images. I've got brighter colors. And I will never need readers again, and I will never develop cataract. If it's time for you to take a look at your eyes and how great they could be, give the team a call at 425-451-2020. That's 425-451-2020. Online at sharp-vision.com. Sharp with an E-vision.com. Official eye care providers of Sounders FC.
We meet by accident, fixing every last bit, accurate auto body.
If you've been in an auto accident, you have the right to take your vehicle to any repair facility. Accurate Auto Body has been family owned and operated since 1994, and they work for you, not your insurance company. Your insurance company may not love them, but you will, because
we meet by accident, fixing every last bit, accurate auto body.
Hi, this is Keith Dashafee, owner of Pella Windows and Doors of Western Washington. Are you ready to enhance your home with stunning, energy-efficient windows and doors? At Pella, we offer top-quality products with innovative designs and exceptional craftsmanship. And right now, we're offering an amazing deal. Enjoy 12 months with no interest and no payments, or get 40% off qualifying installs. My team is dedicated to helping you every step of the way. Visit PellaPNW.com to schedule your free appointment today. That's PellaPNW.com.
Was drafted in 1999 by the Philadelphia 76ers, and that was just absolutely a dream come true.
Todd's playing in the NBA is unique. His battle with neuropathy is not.
I first started noticing problems a couple years into my NBA career, and I felt like my sock was just balled up right in the arch of my foot, and there'd be areas of burning and tingling, and then there'd be other areas of deadness where there would be no response to touch. We tried everything possible, from surgery to different drugs, to try and take care of some of the symptoms.
I'm Dr. Mark Shelley, a chiropractic physician and board-certified functional neurologist at Sound Pain Solutions. Our neuropathy treatments can rehabilitate damaged nerves. We use FDA-cleared, non-surgical, non-drug, pain-free procedures that have helped thousands of neuropathy sufferers find relief.
Now I'm able to spend more time doing the things that I enjoy, being on my feet.
If you experience numbness, shooting, or burning pains, or loss of balance, call us. Sound Pain Solutions, 855-996-0025, or click soundpainsolutions.com.
start having fun. Caesar Sportsbook at Muckleshoot Casino Resort is your #1 place to eat, drink, watch, and have fun. Keep up with your favorite sports anywhere and everywhere on property with the mobile app. Visit muckleshootcasino.com today. Scan the QR code and let the play begin.
Muckleshoot. When we reach our golden years, it's natural to want to stay in our homes. We've worked hard for them, but as our minds and bodies age, the home can become an unsafe place where loneliness thrives. Amanda here for Care Partners Senior Living. Our communities offer safe living spaces and managed common areas with medical professionals on site and ready to help. We assist you with your mobility when needed, allowing you to socialize or participate in activities whenever you like. Care Partners Senior Living provides both privacy and socialization at your desired pace. You aren't living alone in our communities because help is always nearby. And believe it or not, community living can be more cost-effective than in-home care. With locations throughout Washington and Arizona, you'll find a Care Partners community near you. Care, it's in our name and what we do. Learn more at carepartnersliving.com.
With 30 communities, including Covington, Bremerton, Snohomish, and the grand opening of North Creek Bothell, there's quality senior care at an affordable price near you. Visit carepartnersliving.com.
I just learned 10% of our electricity in Washington comes from nuclear energy.
I've heard it's reliable and has a small footprint, but what about the waste?
It's not what you might think. No overflowing dumpsters or leaking barrels. Used fuel is safely stored in solid form after powering homes, schools, and businesses for years. All nuclear power plants in the U.S. store their used fuel responsibly to protect the environment.
Where can I learn more?
You can learn about nuclear energy and used fuel at energy-northwest.com. Energy Northwest, powering our clean energy future.
Charlie Harger here. When your hot turns to cold, you better think fast. Fast water heater. Call 1-800-THINK-FAST. That's 1-800-THINK-FAST or fastwaterheater.com.
You better think fast. Fast water heater.
KIRO News Radio 97.3 FM Northwest News. Now, the latest from KIRO News Radio and mynorthwest.com.
Good afternoon. I'm Aaron Granillo. Products made in China will soon come at a much steeper cost here in the U.S. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says additional 50% tariffs on Chinese imports are on the way.
They will be going into effect at 12:01 a.m. tonight, so effectively tomorrow.
It means overall tariffs against China will reach 104%, as China says it's retaliating with 34% levies on U.S. imports. Our neighbors to the north, meantime, are set to roll out their own counter tariffs.
I'm Matt Piper. Canada says it will start imposing a 25% tariff on certain U.S. auto imports beginning tonight at 12:01 a.m. The retaliatory measure is in response to President Trump's levies on foreign-made cars and trucks. Canada's finance minister says in a statement, Canada continues to respond forcefully to all unwarranted and unreasonable tariffs. Canadian officials say the tariffs will apply to about 10% of all vehicles shipped from the U.S.
Markets shot down at the closing bell, erasing some earlier gains. CBS Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady says investors started the day with optimism, as some countries say they're looking to make new trade deals with the U.S.
We have talks and hints at negotiation, but I think investors were really excited to hear that messaging that all of these countries were coming to the table, but there hasn't been any meaningful agreement.
And at the close, the Dow tumbled 320 points, NASDAQ lost another 335, S&P down 79. Boeing is now delivering as many planes as it did before last year's infamous door plug incidents. Here's KIRO News Radio's Frank Lenzi.
In the first quarter of this year, Boeing delivered 130 airplanes. That's about how many it delivered in the first quarter of 2023. In January of 2024, that door plug blew out of a 737 MAX 9 over Portland. So in the first quarter of that year, Boeing only delivered 83 planes. Frank Lenzi, KIRO News Radio.
Takes us to 1:33. We head over to the Beacon Plumbing traffic desk now. Here's Lori Hardy.
And traffic is brought to you by Beacon Plumbing. In Lakewood, we have an accident taking up 2 lanes, leaving you with 2 lanes on the inside, both the left and right lane. It's right about Bridgeport. 529 in Everett. We had a bridge opening, which usually doesn't slow you down too much, but we've got a stall right before the bridge as you're heading northbound, so that's got traffic backing up there. Looks like Highway 9 is still closed between Market Street and 20th. That's southbound, again, from Market Street to 20th, completely closed for an accident, and you're starting to see a little bit of a slowdown as you head into Seattle. For all of your heating, electrical, septic, and mechanical needs, stop freaking. Call Beacon. KIRO Real-Time Traffic, I'm Lori.
And your forecast now brought to you by State Roofing and Exteriors. We will stay wet come this afternoon. A little bit of a break at the moment for much of the Puget Sound region. But more rain on the way this afternoon, mostly dry for tomorrow, and then rain returns on Thursday. Right now, 54 degrees in downtown Seattle. I'm Aaron Granillo, KIRO News Radio.
Your best source for local news. You're listening to KIRO News Radio Northwest News. Jake and Spike have a gentleman's disagreement.
Welcome back to the show. It's going to be hard to have that disagreement with Jake as he's having fun with his children today. We could fight about that. Mike Lewis is with us. Mike, the Port of Seattle is petitioning a judge to overturn Seattle's recently passed rezone to allow housing in the edges of the city's SoDo, the International District SoDo.
Mm-hmm.
And the port says the main reason for their objection in the petition to the courts to overturn this rezoning law is that it will mostly benefit one man, Chris Hansen. You remember Chris Hansen tried to build the facility south of the stadiums for what would then be an NBA return to Seattle.
Correct. And then got sort of elbowed aside.
So that we could
as
revamp
happens
the
in the
Key
NBA.
Arena.
So Key Arena wasn't left as this giant white elephant, pointy white elephant in the center of Seattle.
And I was all for that. I love that you protect an investment like Seattle Center, a vibrant part of the inner city, and bringing people into town. I get all that. But isn't it time to take south of downtown and expand the city's much-needed housing problem into that area of town? Does the port have any argument saying that it's the wrong part of town for housing?
So what the port is not arguing about this development, I think. I don't have deep insight, but I've got some historical perspective. This argument has been happening since Greg Nichols was mayor, and he's the one actually who kind of locked down SoDo as in its existing state. Light commercial and industrial and not residential. And that's why you see very few. I mean, if you have an existing house, you could tear it down, for example, in the Georgetown neighborhood of SoDo, and you could put in townhouses. That's what, but adding new stuff that is not zoned as that has been extremely difficult, except from very, very few instances. The problem also has been that has meant that you have no ancillary services. There's not a supermarket. There's not all the rest of the stuff that comes along with housing. The port's argument about this isn't so much about Hansen, which they colloquially refer to as the Chris Hansen Further Enrichment Act. That this is going to make Chris Hansen, who's already very wealthy, wealthier.
Yeah.
He also, I think, has been hurt since the city pivoted and said, you are not building an arena there. And that largely came from him clashing with then Mayor Ed Murray. They didn't like each other, and Murray shut him down and decided, and the Oakview group came in and said, hey, we want to do this without taxpayer money down at Key Arena, keep this arena that we've already got, and actually did kind of a great project, brought in the Kraken, and that immediately eliminated any idea of an NBA arena. That's gone now. So he has this land that he bought specifically for an NBA arena. He wants to get it turned into something, right? Something as valuable potentially as an NBA arena. That's why we have the housing argument, but that's not what the port is arguing about per se. This is a proxy for a larger argument. The larger argument is that the port is very concerned that this is the camel's nose under the edge of the tent. This is going to lead to additional housing because Seattle, again, as we spoke about earlier in the show, there's a housing shortage. There's zero question about that. This is what they are concerned is going to open the door to further city councils, additional mayors down the road saying, well, if we did it in this one place, we'll do it in this other little place, and then that other little place, and another little place. And pretty soon, and remember, there are people who want to sell real estate there who would happily sell to the highest bidder unfettered by zoning restrictions on housing. You'd make more money in some of these warehouses that are underutilized right now if you could turn it into housing. And then what would follow is supermarkets, residential
the
streets,
infrastructure
all
needs
of
for
this stuff
residential,
would come in there at some point. The port uses that territory for moving an enormous amount of freight. San Francisco made this mistake many, many years ago when it started de-emphasizing its port. It now doesn't really have an effective port. It's got Fisherman's Wharf, which is a tourist port.
Attraction, yeah.
It is not a port. All of the port activity happens in Oakland, 100%. So this is the concern that this will move more port activity, business, commercial port activity. And remember, some of those are very good paying jobs. They will move those to Tacoma, essentially reducing the effect of Port of Seattle, which already is competing with Port of Tacoma. They're not buddies, They're both trying for a lot of the same stuff. That's the concern. The concern is the long-term effect of this. The concern isn't so much about Chris Hansen getting an additional wad of money so he can develop houses there. I don't know. I mean, the thing that strikes me as odd is the fervor that, say, Sarah Nelson applies to this, that I don't know, she's never shown a desire to be like a super pro-housing advocate. Certainly when it comes to rezoning the rest of the city,
right.
and like the single-family zoning in Seattle and changing that. So why this stretch? I don't exactly know, but I do know that Chris Hansen and his folks and the people who lobby for him have been leaning on the city saying, hey, I got stranded with this land that I can't turn into something better. You need housing. You need housing close to downtown. Downtown was the fastest growing residential neighborhood in Seattle for the last 8 years. I mean, there's 80,000 people living in downtown Seattle. It's not a small amount who also don't have a whole lot. I mean, like, what's up? What is the supermarket downtown? Essentially, it's Target and like a corner store, right?
Yeah.
It's not, they don't have a lot of stuff, and maybe that development down there could do some good. But the port doesn't want that sort of level of pressure, cluttering up what it's trying to do right now, moving big trucks in and out of there 24/7.
Yeah, but they don't. The port. First off, what portion of income does the port bring to Seattle? Is a significant amount of our revenue to protect it and eliminate the expansion of residential areas and residential infrastructure into the SoDo neighborhood.
Well, so I don't know what you can. I mean, with the port, you'd sort of have to say, what is it bringing into Washington State, and also what's it bringing into the Western United States and by extension the country, because it's a giant port.
It's a massive port.
But what you can say is that longshore jobs are good paying jobs. And what you can say is the other port jobs are generally pretty good paying. They're blue collar jobs that actually pay a wage that you can afford to live in Seattle. Many of them are. I'm not saying that all of them are. And Seattle has those jobs are more in short supply. Seattle used to be loaded with blue collar jobs that allowed you to buy a house. Those days are gone, but there are still pockets of blue collar jobs that are actually fairly decent pay, and many of those exist in SoDo. If you want to have an area of your town that is still a working area, no different than the restrictions they've placed on Fisherman's Terminal, not turning it into luxury boat palace, right? If you still want that in your city, then SoDo should be to some degree preserved as is. If you still want those jobs within a city, so you can actually not have to go, to Kent for your job that's in a machine shop, right, or a warehouse job,
and
something
you don't want
like
to
that.
You don't want to lose the Port of Seattle as a major viable West Coast port. This
is a bit of a conundrum. I don't think that those housing units are going to do a whole lot to move the bar here in Seattle. I don't know. I also think that if the city could find a way to restrict it to, if he's already rich, if Chris Hansen gets a little richer, I'm not going to lose any sleep over that. And I understand him wanting to develop his land. I also understand wanting to put more housing in Seattle. I get all of that.
Yeah.
If they restrict it to that and don't allow the creep, but the problem is that the people who allow this to happen are not going to be the people who allow it to creep further.
No, that's
going to be
subsequent.
Yeah. That's going to be the next wave of people.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And so it is. I think the Port of Seattle makes a good argument. I don't know that the court request is going to go anywhere at all. It seems odd to like if what they're saying is this is benefiting primarily one landowner. Gosh, I don't know. That certainly happened with Vulcan and South Lake Union. Yeah, and I didn't see any restrictions there. And so I don't know what they can do from a case history standpoint to make that argument.
Do you see any kind of a situation where they can find some expansion into housing and infrastructure in the SoDo area and not impact the port to where it loses those blue-collar jobs that are so important in the area?
They've got a line. And again, I live in one of these neighborhoods, and we're going through that right now. City of Seattle has a tremendous amount of single-family zoning, all of which could be in play as well. You don't necessarily have to go there. I'm not opposed to them going there, I think in a limited way, but I do understand the port's argument about trying to preserve these sort of jobs within the city of Seattle.
I appreciate you standing up for the blue-collar worker in Seattle, because not many people are doing that these days. Well done, Mike Lewis. When we come back, how do you celebrate your birthday? If you could pick any celebration you wanted on the face of the earth, I think you might go with our next story. One man's really going all out to celebrate his birthday this year. We'll tell you who and who voted for him. We'll be right back after these.
The closing bell is brought to you by Legacy Group Capital's Northwest Fund.
KIRO News Radio, your home for the John Curley Show. Weekdays from 3 to 7 p.m.
The Hatfields and the McCoys, right? We used to win like 51%. Of course, you had to care. But when they do the redistricting and everybody's able to win with supermajority in there, and you don't have to listen to the other side. What you have now is the hard right that gets elected with 70% of the votes, the hard left getting elected with 70% of the votes. They don't have to negotiate at all.
Streaming live on your smart speaker.
Old windows cost you money and security. Lake Washington Windows and Doors installs energy-efficient, high-security windows that lower your bills and increase protection. With leak armor installation and lifetime warranties, you're protected for life. Choose LakeWashingtonWindows.com today.
Right now, have ultra-efficient, clean technology windows installed and pay zero down with zero interest and zero payments for 18 months. Only from Lake Washington Windows and Doors. And they'll even pay your sales tax. Visit LakeWashingtonWindows.com.
Think about your home. Warm in the winter, cool in the summer. If any of these don't work, your quality of life is impacted. For a decade, I've trusted Home Comfort Alliance to fix and upgrade it all. Hi, John Curley here. Upgrade now with incredible savings on ultra-efficient heat pumps. Get up to $5,000 in local utility rebates. And Eastsiders save up to $6,000 with the Energy Smart Eastside program. Plus, Home Comfort Alliance is offering up to 10% off all heat pumps and air conditioning systems through April. Call Home Comfort Alliance, the comfort people. Visit HomeComfortAlliance.com.
Comcast Business helps turn today's small businesses into engines of modern business. It's how restaurants become reliably up and running neighborhood favorites. How retailers become seamlessly restocking, cyber-securing, must-visit shops. And how healthcare offices become the data managing caregivers that we all depend on. With reliable connectivity, enhanced cybersecurity, advanced fiber solutions, and Wi-Fi backup, Comcast Business is powering the engine of modern business. Powering possibilities.
Now through April 21st, new customers can get started with 150 megabit internet and security edge for $49.99 a month for 12 months with a 2-year agreement. Plus, ask how to get a $500 prepaid card on a qualifying internet package. Call today. Restrictions apply. Not available in all areas. Requires enrollment in paperless billing and automatic payments with bank account. Equipment, taxes, and other fees extra and subject to change. Early termination fee applies.
Progressive knows when you own a boat or RV, it's like you're automatically on vacation, even if you're actually a marriage counselor in the middle of couples therapy. But in your mind, you're camping in Acadia, puttering around Frenchman Bay. Your boat and RV are both protected. You're lobster drenched in butter and... Uh-oh, did your clients just notice you weren't listening? Quick, do the thing where you just repeat back exactly what they said, but as a question. They bought it. Now back to Maine, earning an automatic discount bundling your boat or RV with your home or auto. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
Hey, Green Gobbler here. So you've got a clogged drain in your bathroom. Water in the sink's overstaying its welcome. You're spitting today's toothpaste on top of yesterday's toothpaste. You hope that it'd go away. Yeah, clogs don't just go away. I make them go away. I'm Green Gobbler, the only clog dissolver you need. I'm bleach-free, safe for your pipes, and I work. Guaranteed or your money back. Because I never met a clog that was going to unclog itself. Green Gobbler. Let the gobbler get it.
Well, here in our region, it's really common for homes to have damaged insulation or even no insulation at all in their crawl space or attic. Well, in the winter, that'll make your home cold and drafty. And in the summer months, it can turn your home into an oven. It's Mike Salk here, and utility companies have special incentives right now to help with the cost of having your home properly insulated, including a once-in-a-lifetime rebate from Puget Sound Energy. So if you're a PSE customer and your home was built before 1990, you could qualify to receive a rebate on up to 95% of the cost to properly insulate your crawl space and attic. Yes, they will cover up to 95% of the cost. And if you're anything like me, you love the idea of somebody else paying to improve your home, add value to it, and save you money along the way. How good does that sound? Don't wait. Call Crawl Pros to learn what's going on behind that crawl space and attic hatch for free, and then what energy rebates you're eligible for. If you're worried about critters, mold, water damage, insulation issues, or anything else related to your crawl space or attic, schedule a free corner-to-corner inspection at crawlpros.com.
If you've been thinking about surgery or even joint replacement, here's something to consider. Hi, it's Dave Ross. I've talked to over 100 patients of Dr. Mark Wagner, MD, and many of them have told me about life-changing results. Their words, after treatment at Seattle Sports and Regenerative Medicine. These are people with severe osteoarthritis, even bone-on-bone, and they're back to hiking, jogging, playing tennis, skiing, golfing, walking up and down stairs, playing with the kids and the grandkids, and they're doing it without pain and without surgery. Dr. Wagner's 60-minute outpatient procedure uses your own stem cells, and because they're your own stem cells, they can help regenerate your own cartilage in your own joints. Dr. Wagner is a board-certified Seattle physician. He has over 30 years of experience, and he's performed over 20,000 stem cell procedures. And he's one of the few doing it the right way. So, listen to his patients, and remember, whether it's a shoulder, hip, elbow, ankle, wrist, or knee, before you choose surgery, first see Dr. Mark Wagner, MD. Get the facts, then get back in the game at drmarkwagnermd.com.
Steel walk behind, zero turn, and stand-on mowers are built to get the job done. Shop online or at your local Steel dealer. Steel, let's go mow.
Announcing the Million Hour Volunteer Rally. Donate your time to local food banks or host a food drive. You can win groceries for a year and a $5,000 donation. Visit albertsons.com/volunteer to learn more.
Need a new roof but not in the budget? A new roof doesn't have to break the bank. Justin Shirley, CEO of State Roofing and Exteriors here. Right now, State Roofing and Exteriors is offering 0 down, 0 payments, and 0 interest for up to 24 months. That's 2 years with no payments while getting the protection your home deserves. But this offer won't last forever. Call 866-ROOF-ROOF or visit stateroofing.com today to get on our summer schedule now. State Roofing and Exteriors, held to a higher standard since 1968.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Spike O'Neill with Mike Lewis today, sitting in for Jake Skorheim. You know, the United States Army is celebrating its 250th birthday this year. 250 years, as does the U.S. Navy. And the military is planning a large celebration, a nationwide celebration. They want to have the entire country celebrate how proud we are of the United States Army and those who serve. It's been reported that President Trump would like to have a parade to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army, to show off the proud men and women and the equipment that makes us the strongest fighting force in the history of the planet. President Trump wants to have this 250th anniversary on June 14th. And you say, how did you pick June 14th, Mr. President? Well, it happens to be President Trump's 79th birthday. So the White House is denying any reports that they have asked for a military parade for the president's birthday. But I remember back in 2018 when President Trump visited France and came back after attending the Bastille Day parade and wanting this huge military parade here in America to show how proud we are of our military. While I am all for a celebration of the 250th anniversary of our fighting men and women in the Army and the Navy, just can't shake the feeling that we're having some big military birthday party for the president. It's just got overtones in my mind of, I don't know, Red Square in Russia, of marching past Kim Jong-il in North Korea.
I mean, hopefully at some point someone will put a price tag on it and we'll decide whether or not this is really worth doing. I completely agree with the holidays that, honor the people who served in the military. My father did. That's how he met my mom. He was stationed in Panama.
There you go.
I mean, it was an important thing in our family. Having spent some time, working as a reporter, covering issues at JBLM, I've spent, and if you live in this area, you've interacted or intersected with the military in some form. And this is an area that's, I think, done a very good job from Seafair on to sort of acknowledging all of this. However, I don't see, given his history and what he was impressed with, was one of those like you see in Russia, you see in China, would roll out the tanks, the armaments, the missiles down some sort of major parkway,
right, with
to
huge
show people
portraits
that we
of
are a
him.
proud and strong country.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's never been historically, in modern history anyway, what we have done.
No.
And we've always had sort of the self-worth and maybe as a country the self-confidence that we didn't need to do that. It would be nice if we could continue that. If he wants to do a parade and it's just personnel, and it's a celebration of 250 years, go for it. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, if they decide to do them regionally, which would make a lot more sense in areas like here, in areas like San Diego, certainly in areas like now the renamed Fort Bragg. If you want to do that, that makes sense. I understand that, and I think that those we are big on specific anniversary dates, the 50s, the 25s, the 5s, the 10s.
250 is a massively important number.
250 is an important number, and that's what dates back to the founding of this country. I get it. I understand, and perhaps that's not such a bad idea. But I don't like the idea of like assembling all of the armaments. The nice thing about acknowledging the military is there effectively to prevent its use. and I don't see any strong need to roll out all the rest of the stuff. I mean,
and a show
honestly,
of strength.
One of the things that I don't like, and I know that this is going to put me in sort of unpopular territory here in KIRO, but I'm not a big fan of the military flyovers for NFL games. All of that stuff that it seems to me like more propaganda than honoring. So that's where I kind of part ways.
Yeah.
I don't know why we sing the national anthem before a football game and not before a session in court or Congress, right? Like there are things that are fundamentally American about our rights that are not football. I mean, football's entertainment. If we do a national anthem before a football game, we should do one before a movie. It doesn't make any sense. But I do understand acknowledging that stuff and having pride in the country. I'm a big history buff.
Yeah.
All of that stuff, it's just we misapply it, and I think in this particular case, it's kind of misapplied.
And I think they're using the 250th anniversary as a just rationale for giving the president what he wants, which is a show of I don't even want to say fealty from the U.S. military, because that's not what it is. But he wants a show of strength to make him feel like a strong man.
That big tank energy, as they say.
By the way, in 2018, when the president asked for a parade after his trip to Bastille Day, the cost to them was estimated at $92 million.
Right. And
my guess he's asking for it's going to be a little more expensive today.
Right. So my hope is that cooler heads prevail. We do something that is absolutely a worthwhile honoring of the 250 years, but we don't do that thing, which is just matching their propaganda with our propaganda.
Agreed. And I love your idea about locally sourced local tributes to our military to celebrate the 250th. That's a great way to go about it. When we come back, we'll give you some latest from the Supreme Court on their rulings that gave Trump a couple of wins today with regard to deportation and the Alien Enemies Act of 1789. Be right back after these.
Are you putting off your new kitchen plans? Why wait? Hi, I'm Chad Cicchini, owner of Heritage Homecraft, and we've got an offer you're not going to want to wait for. We'll custom build you all new cabinet doors and drawer fronts, and using our exclusive 1/4-inch solid wood refacing process, transform your existing cabinets into a beautiful new kitchen. Add a custom quartz countertop, change things up a bit, add some more cabinets, install some cool new features like soft close drawers and sliding shelves. Whatever you like, we'll help you create the new kitchen you'll be proud of. All in about a week, and all with way less mess, hassle, and expense than a tear-out. Stop waiting. We're having a trade-in sale. You'll save $30 per door and drawer front off the cost of your new kitchen. Count them up and see how much you'll save. Years of experience, thousands of happy customers. Call today and let one of our pros come out and show you how easy and comfortable it'll be to get going on your new kitchen. Heritage Homecraft, 425-485-1600, 425-485-1600, or heritagehomecraft.com.
We just want to have enough money for retirement.
And travel to visit our grandchildren.
I understand. That's why at Fisher Investments, we start by getting to know each other, so I can learn about your family, lifestyle, goals, and needs, allowing us to tailor your portfolio.
What about commission-based products?
We don't sell those. We're a fiduciary, obligated to act in your best interest.
So how do your management fees work?
We have a simple management fee based on the value of your portfolio, so we do better when you do better.
We appreciate that kind of transparency.
We also check in with you regularly to keep you up to date on the markets and your portfolio.
What other services do you offer?
As a client, you have access to resources on investing, financial planning, estate planning, Social Security, Medicare, and more.
Wow, it sounds like Fisher Investments has everything we need.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Charlie Harder here. When your hot turns to cold, you better think fast. Fast Water Heater. Call 1-800-THINK-FAST. That's 1-800-THINK-FAST or fastwaterheater.com.
You better think fast. Fast Water Heater.
Sharp Vision Modern LASIK and Lens has given me back clear vision. The process was simple and easy. I scheduled my free consultation and discovered I was at the early stage of cataracts and a perfect candidate for RLE. They restored clarity and brightness to my vision like when I was in my 20s, and I'll never need readers again and never develop cataracts. Sharp Vision Modern LASIK and Lens are taking RLE surgery to the next level. Call them now at 425-451-2020 or go online to sharp-vision.com, official eye care provider of Sounders FC.
Enjoy your drive home with the John Curley Show.
You don't realize the connection you make through radio. Just this thing where people are stuck in their car and you develop this relationship.
Weekday afternoons from 3 to 7 on KIRO News Radio.
Bonneville International Radio Station contests are open to participants 18 years of age or older that are residents of Washington State unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest are not eligible to win unless the station otherwise specifies at its own discretion. Persons who have won in the last 60 days from a station contest or event may not be eligible. Full general contest rules are available on mynorthwest.com or in person at the station during regular business hours.
Your best source for local news. KIRO News Radio, KIRO FM and HD1, Tacoma, Seattle, Northwest News.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
I'm Cammie McCormick. There was more reason today for Wall Street investors to worry. Canada's retaliatory tariffs on U.S. auto imports, President Trump's new tariffs on China. The Dow surged, then flattened, down 320 points. Despite some good news, President Trump says he's talking to as many countries as he can.
Talks with many countries, over 70. They all want to come in. Our problem is can't see that many that fast.
CBS's Jill Schlesinger.
The big intraday swings really say more about how investors are desperate to see some progress on tariff negotiations. Amid early reports that the administration had begun conversations with South Korea and some other countries, there was investor enthusiasm to buy stocks again. By the end of the day, without any confirmation of progress, investors sold off their stocks and awaited the implementation of tariffs.
The Supreme Court today blocked an order for the Trump administration to return thousands of federal workers to their jobs. CBS News legal analyst Lori Levinson.
The short order basically says that the parties who had challenged what Trump's administration had done did not have standing, were not the right parties to come to court.
A federal judge in California had ordered 16,000 probationary employees be reinstated. There's a huge cleanup ahead for Kentucky after torrential rains and now overflowing rivers. Nicole Valdez has the latest.
This street alone now has just a layer of mud caked on top of it as all of that water has slowly receded back into the swollen Kentucky River. Right now it sits at about 48 feet, but get this, flood stage here is just over 30 feet.
The governor's urging patience and asking people to stay out of those floodwaters. There was a tragedy in the Dominican Republic early this morning at a nightclub hosting a concert. 58 people died. Matt Piper reports.
The roof collapse happened at the Jet Set Club in Santo Domingo. Video posted to social media shows the roof quickly falling as merengue singer Ruby Perez was performing. His saxophonist is among those killed. Hundreds of rescue personnel combed through the ruins as trapped people cried out for help from the debris.
The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called Gaza a death trap today.
More than an entire month has passed without a drop of aid into Gaza. No food, no fuel, no medicine.
Israel has said it will not allow supplies to enter until Hamas releases all remaining hostages. This is CBS News.
A riddle brought to you by Progressive Insurance. What do your home and auto have in common? Progressive protects them both. It was an easy riddle. Learn more at Progressive.com.
Coming up, some Seattle lawmakers look to crack down on late-night lounges. We'll have that story after Lori Hardy at the Beacon Plumbing Traffic Desk.
Support for KIRO Traffic comes from Washington 811. In Lakewood, we have a big problem. 2 lanes are blocked, a left and right lane. It's northbound I-5, right about 512. That's doubling your time from Olympia to Tacoma, usually 30 minutes, now an hour. Eastbound 16, you've got some road work from I-5 to about mid-span on the bridge. I'm really not seeing an impact from that yet. 167 off and on slowing. This is southbound from 516 all the way into Sumner, but it's only adding about a minute to your commute. Southbound 9 still completely shut down from Market all the way to 20th. If you're digging in your yard, the law requires you to call 811 to avoid dangerous and costly damages to utility lines. Call 811 or submit online at digsafewa.com. KIRO Real-Time Traffic, I'm Lori.
KIRO News Radio 97.3 FM Northwest News. Now, the latest from KIRO News Radio and mynorthwest.com.
Good afternoon. I'm Aaron Granillo. A week after a deadly shooting at a hookah lounge, a Seattle City Council committee votes for new regulations on late-night clubs. KIRO News Radio's Luke Ducey has more.
Erica Escatel pleaded with city councilors after her little brother, Francisco David, was gunned down outside a private Seattle lounge 7 months ago.
How is this always happening? Whose fault is it? The person who owns the establishment and takes advantage of no repercussions?
Last week, prosecutors say a 25-year-old man shot and killed 2 people after hours outside the Capri Hookah Lounge on Rainier Avenue South. If passed by full council, the proposed law would require lounges to get permission to stay open past 2 a.m. and would give police officers access, something private clubs are not required to do. Luke Ducey, KIRO News Radio.
Family of a 14-year-old boy confirms it was an overdose that killed one teen and put 2 others in critical condition in Skyway last week. The parents tell KIRO 7 TV those teens likely took cocaine laced with fentanyl at a graduation party. One of the teens is still in the hospital with memory and lung damage. A complete ban on the sale of flavored tobacco of any kind is being proposed by House and Senate Democrats. KIRO News Radio's Matt Markovich reports it also comes with a hefty tax on regular cigarettes.
A $2 a pack tax increase expected to raise millions of dollars for a state facing a budget deficit. It also axes anything flavored: e-cigarettes, chewing tobacco, cigars, menthols, and those sleek-looking nicotine pouches. If it doesn't taste like tobacco, no sale except at tribal smoke shops. Matt Markovich, KIRO News Radio.
Lacey police respond to a loud explosion at a Tesla charging station. Detective Sergeant Jeremy Knight tells KTTH they got the call just after 1:30 a.m.
Officers arrived and found extensive damage to the electric vehicle charging station.
Happened in the South Sound Center in front of the Target store. Nobody was hurt. FBI is investigating. Big blow for the Seattle Mariners. Their leadoff hitter Victor Robles will be out at least 3 months. He suffered a small fracture on Sunday when he dislocated his shoulder making a leaping catch. MC Robles will need 6 weeks to heal, plus another 6 weeks of rehab, and that's if no surgery is required. Weather now brought to you by State Roofing, and exteriors will stay cloudy today, along with showers at times this afternoon. Tomorrow dry with highs in the mid-50s. Right now 54 degrees in downtown Seattle. I'm Aaron Granillo, KIRO News Radio.
Your best source for local news, serving Western Washington and the world with a KIRO News Radio app. Always streaming live on your smart speakers. You're listening to KIRO News Radio, Northwest News. It's the all-new Jake and Spike Show on KIRO News Radio.
Welcome back to the Jake and Spike Show. Mike Lewis filling in for Jake Skorheim. I'm Spike O'Neill. We had a couple decisions by the Supreme Court in the last 24 hours that seemed to allow the Trump administration to carry on with its implementation of the 1789 Alien Enemies Act. The president used this declaration of an emergency at the U.S. border and to declare that he was given executive power for deportations that seemed to, according to legal challenges, eliminate due process. That a lower court judge, Judge Bossert, I believe it was, in New York, put a stay on the further deportation of illegal enemy aliens by the Trump administration, saying that the law violated constitutional, I think the 5th and the 14th Amendments of the Constitution. That was taken up to the Supreme Court, who heard the case, who ruled yesterday in a 5-4 decision that the Trump administration may, in fact, resume implementation of the Alien Enemies Act. But it did have a little bit of a caveat for those of us who were opposed to the actions of the Trump administration. The Trump administration, by the way, is hailing this as a resounding win. Everybody in Camp Trump, all the administration spokesfaces have been on TV, everybody from Kristi Noem to Pam Bondi to whomever else, saying that it's a win for the rule of law. It's a
It's a win for Mitch McConnell.
Although I see that this ruling gives a little bit of hope to those of us who want to make sure that due process isn't thrown away. Part of my problem with the deportation of the 283, was it 83 or 63? 200 and, I hope I want to get the number right. Of the alleged Venezuelan gang members who were rounded up by ICE and then shipped off to a for-profit paid prison in El Salvador, who were just accused of being gang members. Some of them may have been, but accused of being gang members and deported. In that group were several individuals who have valid cases that they were neither gang members nor even in the country illegally. One man from Maryland was ruled that that same judge in New York ruled that this man needed to be returned to the U.S. by midnight last night. That was also put on hold by Justice Roberts in just a single opinion that he wrote, asking for both sides, the federal government and the defense of the man from Maryland, to present briefings so that the Supreme Court rule in that case in particular.
Yeah, what they want to do is make that as narrow as possible so it doesn't create a whole bunch of people, establishing a precedent that a whole bunch of people can come back, maybe some of who should not.
And I agree with Justice Roberts on that. Let's get information and make this particular case the norm.
Unfortunately, this person who should be in the United States is now in a prison in El Salvador, which is a problem.
One of the most horrific prisons on the face of the earth, by the way. This is the scariest place on earth.
Not a place you want to end up. It's a shame that what's really getting, it's not just people who are getting shoved aside here, and sometimes fairly deported, and in some cases unfairly deported. The problem is the due process. Yeah. I mean, the due process, which is such a Fifth and 14th Amendment, it's such a fundamental part of American law. I mean, really, as load-bearing as anything else we have, including we talk a lot about guns and free speech, due process is as important as both, if not more important in some ways, because due process says that no matter who you are, there has to be a set of conditions and a set of proof before we can change your status. Frequently, that status being from free to incarcerated or fined or something along those lines. And in this particular case, due process was completely ignored. Now, there are cases during war where due process is going to be set aside. I understand that, and I know that there's, as much as no one wants to see that, I understand it. But in this particular case, there is no war, and it's a manufactured crisis. This is absolutely something from an immigration standpoint that needs to be dealt with. No question. And it was dealt with by the Bush 1. It was dealt with by Clinton. It was dealt with by, Bush 2. Mm-hmm. It was dealt with by Obama, who deported more people than the Trump administration by a wide margin per term. So I get it. Like, deportations should happen if people are here illegally. However, those deportations went through a due process, and they do sometimes round up people as local law enforcement. Sometimes will round up somebody who genuinely didn't do anything. That is what due process is all about, is to separate out, to filter out. And in this particular case, due process has fallen by the wayside, and that's what, whether you're conservative, whether you're a libertarian, whether you are a liberal, you should be mostly concerned right now about the fact that due process in this particular case is getting set aside.
And what's troubling about this ruling by the Supreme Court is it does allow the president to use this Alien Enemies Act and to declare war, basically, without Congress, without congressional approval. It's another mechanism of empowering the executive branch over the other two supposed to be equal opposite, opposing branches of government, with the judiciary and the congressional branch, the legislative branch.
Exactly.
So that's what troubles me about it. What I thought was the silver lining in this, even if people are going to be rounded up, for lack of a better, more unbiased word, rounded up and deported, at least they will be required to have the opportunity to make their case before deportation, that they do have a valid reason to stay in this country, that they weren't gang members, whatever it may be. They'll have a hearing,
right,
in some attempt to at least provide some due process to these folks before they are deported.
Yeah, so I would suggest, if anybody is curious about sort of the history of these sort of things, look up the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986. There was a lot of anti-immigration sentiment. This is during the Reagan administration, and the response from the Reagan administration was to sign into law the Immigration Reform and Control Act. That did a couple of things. One, it really ramped up penalties on employers for employing illegal people. The reason that you have to do those forms now sort of started right here. The second thing that it did was it provided additional capacity, and the U.S. did end up deporting a whole bunch of people. But here's the third thing that it did. It provided for immigrants who had been here, overstayed their visa, but had actually entered into relatively productive lives, had not committing criminal acts,
Right.
had no record of doing so, who were gainfully employed, if illegally employed. It created a pathway to amnesty. 3 million people. This is signed into law. Let me restate that, by Ronald Reagan. Signed into law. It made 3 million people. And the nice thing about that, 3 million people citizens. Now here, it gave them a pathway to citizenship. Not everyone chose to do that, but it gave them amnesty to stay and to work towards citizenship. And I would say as a ancillary idea, the people who are here for asylum are actually here legally. Asylum is being here legally. You are allowed to request asylum. You go through a hearing process. While you're going through that hearing process, you are legally in the United States. Requesting asylum does not mean you are illegal, even if you are a non-citizen. That is U.S. law. It's not even a question. But what Reagan did was decide that there are multiple ways of handling this. Deportation, absolutely. Fining employers, absolutely. And creating a path to amnesty. That's what ratcheted down all the pressure. And this was a very conservative, still hailed, very conservative Republican, recognized that multiple tools, you need multiple tools in the kit to handle this problem. And that's the one thing that we've lost now, is we're using one giant hammer, and that giant hammer is deportation.
And as we see this administration flexing its muscles and rounding up, given this 5-4 decision by the Supreme Court to continue to use the Alien Enemies Act to deport what they deem as terrorists in this country, because we're under a declaration of war by the president right now. I'm not against deportation of criminals, as you mentioned. Some people deserve to be deported. They have criminal activity.
100%.
They're a threat to society and to the safety of our U.S. citizens. But CBS did a piece on 60 Minutes last weekend where they took the time and did the research of the 283 that were on this plane. 75% of those people had no criminal records.
None.
I mean, other than maybe being in the country illegally, to your point. And people who say this is what people voted for. Well, what President Trump promised on the campaign trail was going after the criminals, going after the threats to safety in our culture. And we're all for that. But when you round up 206 people for a publicity stunt, for a highly televised, they send Kristi Noem to El Salvador to film a propaganda campaign ad.
With a $40,000 watch.
I saw the Rolex on her wrist, but she got that because she wrote a great book. That's from her book sales. Yeah. But I mean, that piece it's just that waving a victory flag over all of this disregard for constitutional law. When people are in this country, whether they're U.S. citizens or not, they are still afforded the rights of the Constitution. The 5th and the 14th Amendments apply to non-citizens and citizens alike. And again, all we're speaking to here is the due process of being accused and getting your day in court. Even alleged gang members deserve their day in court. And if evidence is presented and they're found guilty, ship them off to the hellhole in El Salvador. I got no problem with that.
Yeah.
But elimination of due process, it's that, the slippery slope of, they came after these people, but I wasn't one, so I didn't speak up. And then they came after them, and I wasn't one, so I didn't speak up. Those axioms are going to bear true in this country. President Trump is looking for ways to deport people he doesn't agree with that are U.S. citizens.
Right.
People who are dissenters, people who are protesters. Students in this country here on legal student visas.
Right.
Who are exercising free speech rights afforded to them under student visas have been rounded up on the streets by unmarked officers and unmarked vehicles.
Right.
And sent off to who knows where, to Louisiana, to Texas, to await not extradition, but a deportation, eviction from this country for their First Amendment rights of free speech, for political speech. And we're in this place where now these tenets, as you mentioned, the foundational columns of who we are as a nation are being so quickly disregarded.
Well, and also, I mean, is the issue with the attorney with the DOJ who admitted that the government made a mistake with one of the deportations has now been suspended. And this whole category of now rewriting history, to fit the existing narrative is part of what this whole process is. The government, believe it or not, and I think everyone listening here would believe that the government makes mistakes frequently, right? And it's the transparency on these mistakes that allow things to get fixed. But when the government decides that somebody was honest about the government making a mistake and that warrants a suspension from the Department of Justice, it's this dual nature of both trying to deny people due process as we've been speaking about, but then rewriting the history of someone who actually is, weirdly enough, when he's admitting the government made a mistake, defending due process by admitting that mistake so it can be fixed. It seems like there is this broader effort at, I don't know, it's like what all of us read about in 1984, many years ago when you were in school, about like the whole, like the textbooks being changed, like the websites and the government being changed, all of this stuff being changed to this sort of modern reality with no nod to what actually really transpired. And I think it's not just a shame. I think it is a slow drip corrosion that we should be on guard for and worried about.
Well, when the Attorney General Pam Bondi, who is right now on Fox News waving a flag of victory over this ruling by the Supreme Court, you mentioned the attorney who went to court and admitted that the Trump administration made an administrative mistake in deporting this gentleman. Pam Bondi said, "I ask all employees of the Justice Department to have zealous advocacy for the United States of America and for the president's agenda." These attorneys, the Justice Department works for the American people. They work for the rule of law and abiding by the Constitution of the United States, not the president's agenda, not loyalty to President Trump, but loyalty to the Constitution. And this attorney who went to court and said, yes, we made a mistake, has been sidelined because he didn't fall in line with the president's agenda. That is a horrifically scary development in who we are as a government and as an administration and the Department of Justice. You know, when Pam Bondi went in early and said the president and the attorney general decide what are the laws of the United States, that is not how it works.
Nope, that's Congress.
The president's job is to enforce, faithfully execute the laws of the United States,
right,
not to decide what they are.
Right.
Congress has the power of the purse to decide where money is spent, decide what the laws are. It's the president's job is to enforce that with the Department of Justice, not dictate what those laws are. And I think I called it a slow creep toward autocracy. And Mikey said, "What's the slow creep part? Where's the in the shadows? It's in broad daylight. This march toward it. It's a parade. It's a military parade toward autocracy with this." And I know folks will disagree with me, and it's about national security, and it's about the rule of law, and criminals deserve to be prosecuted and sent off. And I'm with you on all that. But you would expect due process if it were you accused of a crime. And some of these people are dirtbags in the lowest form of life. I think they said 13 people who were deported on that flight to El Salvador of the Venezuelans. 13 had violent criminal records. 13 out of 283. 75% had no criminal records. Several of them had completely valid asylum claims and were in this country legally,
right,
rounded up because of the tattoo they had on their arm, there's a 10-point checklist provided to ICE by things to look for, different traits in the way of tattoos, in the way of clothing styles or choices. And if you met 8 of those 10 criteria, then you were suspected of being in a gang, a terrorist-deemed gang from Venezuela. One of them is a Chicago Bulls jersey. If you had a Michael Jordan Air Jordan tattoo, that was one of the 10 telling signs that you may be a gang member. That's far too loose and vague with constitutional rights.
I could understand
all
a
of us.
Lakers jersey, but really.
I appreciate the laugh at this point in time. We talked a little about student visas. We talked about it being revoked for free speech. We talked about people being disallowed the due process under our Constitution. You mentioned really quickly about people being stricken from our history books. Harriet Tubman had been scrubbed from the history books for her work on the Underground Railroad because of Trump's
She's returned, though.
She has been returned, right. The DEI dictatives of this administration that all references to DEI be removed from official government websites and archives. They went in and they removed references in Arlington National Cemetery, the most sacred place for our most honored fallen soldiers.
So setting aside the presidential decree on DEI stuff, let's just set that aside, leave it for what it is.
Please.
I think what happened in some cases, though, was you got these department heads who became sort of overzealous enforcers of very vague standards. And we've all had this in a workplace. You get a middle manager who thinks they know the mind of the boss, the CEO or the general manager, and they start rapidly enforcing stuff that is not really to the letter of what they said. The Harriet Tubman thing, I think as much as I disagree with the Trump administration and this whole effort to not only purge references but deny funding to somebody who makes a reference they don't like regarding diversity and inclusion.
School funding, whatever it may be.
School funding. Some of these things I have to put on the mid-level apparatchiks who are just deciding to be a good soldier and run herd on this kind of stuff that probably wouldn't even be noticed, by the feds. And it's really unfortunate that they're not finding some way to look at, and many of them probably are, finding a way to look at this and say, I don't think there's a problem here. Let's just move it along.
Let's just leave it where it is.
Because this draws a whole lot of attention, and maybe it should, to something that seems pretty misguided anyway. But sometimes it's misguided at the lower agency level than it is misguided at the very top.
Fair enough. When we come back, we'll kind of lighten the mood a little bit and talk about a new summer concert series coming to the Seattle waterfront, brought to you by a very old favorite in Seattle. Right back after these. This hour is brought to you by Sharp Vision Modern LASIK and Lens.
Hey there, I'm Chris Sullivan, traffic reporter for KIRO News Radio. The favorite part about my job is helping you get answers to your traffic questions.
Will this construction ever end?
How do you zipper merge?
Just how close is tailgating?
Now I need your help. What burning questions do you have? What should I be looking into? You can help drive the conversation by going to mynorthwest.com or text choke points to 888-973-5476. Who knows? Maybe you'll be the star of my next Choke Points story. Presented by Carter Subaru.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is for you too. Stubborn fat is really hard to get rid of, and then there's all those gimmicky lasers, fat freezing methods, and prescriptions. Imagine a simple solution that takes just one day and provides immediate noticeable results. Introducing ProSculpt. ProSculpt uses air-assisted technology that's safe and gentle yet powerful, delivering instant fat-reducing and skin-tightening results. Performed by board-certified plastic surgeons while fully awake, ProSculpt contours your body with minimal downtime. It's designed to target those problem areas: waistline, neck, face, arms, thighs. ProSculpt gently removes unwanted fat and tightens loose skin with FDA-cleared plasma technology, all in a simple, guaranteed one-day procedure. ProSculpt is one and done. Schedule your free consultation at prosculpt.com for $250 off. For powerful permanent fat removal and skin tightening that works for ladies and you men, it's prosculpt.com.
If you've been arrested for DUI, you need a hero. We're giving free consultations via phone and Zoom. Go to DUIHeroes.com or call 1-800-DUI-HERO.
We're human and we make mistakes. If you need someone by your side during a challenging time, DUI Heroes is there for you 24/7. They're excellent at what they do. DUI Heroes averages 90% of all DUI offenses they take on being reduced or completely dismissed. Your DUI defense specialist, DUIHeroes.com.
The preseason AC sale is on now at Bob's Heating and Air Conditioning. This month only, keep your home cool and your wallet comfortable with 15% off. Plus, free financing on all air conditioners, heat pumps, and ductless systems. Trust the team voted best in the Pacific Northwest and call Bob's today for your free estimate. Hurry, the discount reduces to 10% off in May. Call Bob's Heating and Air Conditioning today.
Bob's Heating and Air Conditioning. Call Bob.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them, the right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Workdays can be unpredictable,
but your workwear shouldn't be. With a Cintas Apparel Plus program, you'll have freshly laundered garments for everyone on your team delivered every week. Cintas has workwear for just about any job imaginable, with high-performance fabrics and an uncompromising fit that stretches and moves with you. Don't leave looking and feeling good to chance. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Meanwhile, at Xfinity. So, influencer life going well?
Oh, yeah. I'm up to 32 followers.
Oh, that's something.
Yeah, posting my tap dancing videos is easier than ever because we engineered Xfinity Internet with 99.99% network reliability.
Plus, Xfinity Mobile with Wi-Fi Power Boost gives you ultra-fast Wi-Fi at home and on the go. But wait, tap dancing? You don't tap dance.
Hey, what I lack in skill, I make up with passion.
Do more of what you love and love how fast you do it with Xfinity Internet and mobile. And now through April 21st, get 300 megabit Xfinity Internet and one unlimited mobile line together for $25 a month for 1 year and save $1,000 in your first year over Verizon and AT&T. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Requires paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra. After promo, regular rates apply. Savings compared to Verizon 5G Internet plus one unlimited welcome line and AT&T Internet 300 plus one unlimited starter SL line. Xfinity Internet required. Actual speeds vary. Reduced speeds after 30 gigabits of usage per line. Data thresholds and actual savings vary.
We're here with our friend Steve Teitler of Best Mortgage, the reverse mortgage expert. Steve, mortgage rates have been dropping this year. How could that help seniors struggling to stay in their homes?
Lower mortgage rates mean seniors can now get more money from their equity with a reverse mortgage. You can pay off your existing mortgage, have extra money to help with today's high cost of living, or believe it or not, you can even buy a home with a reverse mortgage. There are many uses, and best of all, you have no mortgage payments the rest of your life.
But as you always say, a reverse mortgage is not for everyone.
That's right. Avoid the high-pressure sales pitch from those out-of-state call centers. I give you a consultation, not a sales pitch. I'll tell you if a reverse mortgage is right for you, and I always tell you if it's not.
Honest advice you can trust from the reverse mortgage experts. Best Mortgage, the VA loan experts and debt consolidation specialists too. 425-649-6000. Best Mortgage, 425-649-6000.
Guys, thinking about testosterone replacement therapy? Revive Men's Health can help you get started if you're ready to book your free T-check. Visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com. That's Revive, R-E-V-I-B-E, menshealth.com.
KIRO News Radio 97.3 FM, Northwest News. Now, the latest from KIRO News Radio and MyNorthwest.com.
Good afternoon. I'm Aaron Granillo. After a hot start, stock market finished the day on a down note. Dow lost more than 300 points as investors look for more clarity on tariffs. The U.S. will impose a 104% tariff on China at midnight. President Trump says other countries want to make a deal.
We've had talks with many countries, over 70. They all want to come in. Our problem is can't see that many that fast.
PNC Chief Economist Gus Fauché.
Investors should be focusing on the long run picture. They should not be making rash decisions. They should be thinking about what their long-term goals are and then evaluating how their portfolio is helping them to meet those goals or if they need to make changes.
The U.S. Supreme Court says the Trump administration can continue deporting suspected Venezuelan gang members under an 18th century wartime law. CBS's Scott McFarland says the high courts ruled 5-4 to lift a lower court's order.
The court also added a caveat that those being deported under the Alien Enemies Act are afforded some form of due process, which was not the case on March 15th. And as we learned from our reporting, there was at least one mistake made among those 200-plus men deported on March 15th.
Some UW students and grads have just had their visas canceled. Here's KIRO News Radio's Frank Lenzi.
The university tells the Seattle Times 5 international students and 4 recent graduates have had their visas canceled without notice. Now, some believe they've been targeted over their pro-Palestinian activism, but others aren't sure why they've been targeted. UW's Vic Balta tells the Times they have no indication that this has anything to do with activism or other protected free speech. Frank Lenzi, KIRO News Radio.
A second stuffed sloth taken down on I-5 near Bellingham. WashDOT crews removed the large stuffed animal from a tree yesterday near Lake Samish. My Bellingham now reports it appeared over the weekend in the same area where another stuffed sloth was removed last month. WashDOT says it recognizes That sloth is encouraging drivers to slow down, but it's also a potential distraction for drivers. Now to the Beacon Plumbing Traffic Desk at 2:33. Here's Lori Harvey.
No sloth in Lakewood, but we do have a big backup. North 5, you're backed up all the way to DuPont to 512, where we have an accident in the left and right lane, increasing your commute by about 33 minutes. So now it's an hour and 3 minutes. High winds on State Route 16 across the lake, but also the bridge. And then we have roadwork going on from I-5 all the way to Midspan. That's in the eastbound direction. Not a big impact yet. Both directions of 405 really heavy between I-5 and 167, and that's because of an accident northbound at the Valley Highway. And it looks like there's another one right at 167, so that might be two accidents. And you're slow in the southbound direction, which is crazy. Bellevue to Federal Way right now, 52 minutes. Both directions of I-5, a little heavy already through downtown. That's going to increase tonight with the Mariners playing at home. Highway 9 southbound closed from Market Street to 20th, and northbound 5 slows into Marysville, just adding about 3 minutes to your commute. KIRO Real-Time Traffic, I'm Lori.
And your forecast now brought to you by State Roofing and Exteriors. We have showers continuing for this afternoon. Drying out come tomorrow with highs in the mid-50s, and then another round of rain set for Thursday. Right now, 53 degrees in downtown Seattle. I'm Aaron Granillo, KIRO News Radio.
Your best source for local news. You're listening to KIRO News Radio, Northwest News.
Welcome back to the Jake and Spike Show. I'm Spike O'Neill, sitting with Mike Lewis. And Mike, are you a big fan of the Seattle music scene with regard to summer shows, and whether it's Woodland Park Zoo, Chateau Saint Michel?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, well, you have, especially if it's outdoor shows, you've got about 2 months in Seattle to get your shows in.
Yeah, Merrimore
maybe
Park.
3 on a good year.
Well,
so yes, I am a fan.
Were you a big fan of, was it Pier 62 or 4? Pier 60, which one was where was the waterfront shows back in the 90s and the early 2000s? I
think it was 62, wasn't it?
62, where they would have, literally 9,000 people, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Not just 9,000 people. Boats. Because all the boats would poach the free show right outside, which I thought was one of my favorite things about the whole.
Well, guess what? It's coming back. The Crocodile Cafe, a Seattle icon and staple during the grunge era, which recently moved down to the old El Gaucho facility. Mm-hmm. It's now got a 3-story venue. In the revamping of that building is magnificent. They are one of the driving forces behind Seattle Waterfront's concerts is returning to Pier 62. They've announced a summer lineup in what they call Oodalali, which is I always knew it from the Disney movie Robin Hood, right? Apparently it's a Gaelic term meaning fun and frivolity.
Oh,
they're announcing a summer concert series on Pier 62 beginning in June. There's a whole list of dates available. They're working with the Seattle Waterfront Association and bringing this Seattle staple back to the Great Northwest for summer fun.
I think that's great. I was really impressed by it when I first got into town. I thought, like, man, what a beautiful venue. I mean, it really is. It really is a beautiful venue. And now, and I always wondered why did it go away? And I understood that they were doing some rehab on the piers, plus building the seawall. There was a lot of my time in Seattle has been the rebuilding of the waterfront, right? An unfortunate period of time. However, we're close, and this return of this concert series seems like a great exclamation point on what otherwise, I mean, cities get a lot of blame for perpetual construction and projects that are over budget and frequently finish well beyond deadlines. The waterfront, both of those things, true, but it actually looks great down there. I mean, it really is, I think, a substantial improvement over the old waterfront. I know there's people who maybe miss the viaduct, all 7 of you, but I don't. And I don't also as a motorcyclist, because it was dangerous. I mean, it was, yes, if you were driving people in from the airport and they'd never been to Seattle before, it was a great way to sort of like zip through, spend 2 minutes getting through downtown. Unless you were in traffic, then it was 2 hours getting through downtown. And it's a nice view, but I gotta say, I think the waterfront is dramatically improved as a result of removing that. And then the changes that they've made from an actual functional bike trail, semi-functional bike trail. I think it's great, and I think adding the concert series is a perfect addition.
I was one of those people who were very pro viaduct. I thought it was a unique. Just let me hear me out.
Okay.
I'm about to admit how wrong I was.
All right.
Let me lay it out first. I was one of those people when you brought somebody to town, you took them up that viaduct.
Absolutely.
You showed them
I had the
view.
same my first time into town.
Right.
Somebody did for me. Yes,
and it was a kind of a world class show off the city's topography, the waterfront views, the mountain range, the ferries coming across the water, downtown Seattle skyline. You could literally in a 90-second tour show off your city like no other city in the world really could do. And I bemoaned the loss of the viaduct. I thought it would open up the waterfront to only developers and the super rich who were going to build these luxury apartments that gave that view to the swells and took it from me, the average commuter. But to your point, the waterfront's renovation has been magnificent.
Yeah.
The new aquarium and the walkway that goes from the aquarium down to the waterfront, down to Pier 62, where this new venue will be, is an absolute jewel.
Yeah.
And you can enjoy this treasure that I showed off for 90 seconds. For a whole day.
Yeah,
for
you can
an
actually
evening
go
under
down there
stars.
and hang out. And the nice thing also is, again, speaking very selfishly, it's a lot, especially on a motorcycle, the tunnel is a lot safer than the viaduct was always oily and crowded. And if you made a mistake or someone else, because remember, on a motorcycle, you pay for your own mistakes and you pay for their mistakes too.
Absolutely true.
And that thing was dangerous. The viaduct was no fun by anyone's estimation. The tunnel is a lot better, a fast way through. I agree. We lost a drive-by view. Big deal.
It's still there. If you want to show off, take the moments to run up that. It's still a drive-through park down there. By the way, the viaduct, I had forgotten all about this. One day on the Harley, coming northbound at the viaduct, as you came up that ramp and made that soft left turn, I lost traction and drifted across 3 lanes toward what would be the eastern
I know 3
wall.
people who've crashed there. Like, it was terrible.
It was all I could do. I regained control of the bike as I hit the far lip close to the concrete fence or rails, and I'd forgotten all
And if
about
you'd
that.
hit that, you're
I'd have been
over.
over and gone, and you'd have been doing the show alone today.
Exactly.
That would have been bad.
Exactly.
Some of the acts that are slated already to come to. In fact, there's a story in a story in the Seattle Times today that gives a full lineup for the summer. There's a queer peer pride parade on June 29th. Alt rockers, the Silver Sun pickups are coming. Nice. Deltron's coming. The Pacific Northwest favorites, Blind Pilot and John Craigie are coming. There's a full lineup in there, including a September 13th disco party with Gimme Gimme Disco, and ABBA kind of styles disco band. It's lots of fun. Between the Woodland Park Zoo, the Chateau Saint Michel, Marymore Park, we are littered with outdoor summer venues. Mike, you're right. It's a couple of months that we can enjoy these perfect places, but it's the perfect
zoo,
place.
Concert series, all of that
the
sort of
zoo
stuff.
concert series, and capacity size too. 2,500 people will be able to fit on that pier.
Right.
And back in
a whole bunch more
on the
in
boats.
boats.
Yeah, and by the way, back in 2005, they brought it down because it was an old wood pier, and they were worried about public safety.
Right.
That's why they took it apart and took it away and got it all done, and so we're glad that they did. Oh, we have lost a Seattle staple at the Pike Place Market, which is never coming back. The Starbucks, the original Starbucks. Now, it wasn't the original that closed,
No,
right?
Not the original.
Not the original,
it
which
was
is
their bigger one.
Their bigger one.
Like up on the kind of cobblestoney top of
Yes,
First.
the where the visitors to town stopped in and had their Starbucks. That
Right.
went away, and it went away. They closed it temporarily, then it was made permanent. Now there's a new tenant coming in.
Salt and Straw. I'm so excited about this.
Now they sell salt and straw. Is that going to be enough to keep a company in business?
Why are you excited about this?
I love Salt and Straw. They sell wacky but delicious. I would say maybe artisanal is the word. Ice cream flavors. They do like a goat cheese and black olive one. At Halloween, they do creepy crawlies with real bugs in it. All kinds of fun stuff.
All
and
right.
every city that has a Salt and Straw, they have their own unique local flavors. So they bring in blackberries and in the Pacific Northwest, and they make it fun. So I think that's a perfect addition to the market, personally.
Oh, yeah. I think it's great.
Yeah, and we already had 2 Starbucks down there.
There you go. Yeah,
We just have
exactly.
the one.
We just have one, and
No
all we
one
need
will
is
get
one.
confused.
Exactly.
So now some of the best ice cream on the face of the earth is at Pike Place Market for us, the
yeah.
Salt and Straw.
And they do seasonal flavors too. They just did a cereal series. It might still be going on, but there's a Lucky Charms flavor that is to die for.
You're selling it well. When we come back, yeah, there you go. Your opportunity here, Salt and Straw. When we come back, we'll bring the best of your texts of the day onto the show. We'll be right back after these.
KIRO News Radio delivers the news you can trust.
State is facing a multi-billion-dollar deficit.
Government wants more of your money to build, quote-unquote, affordable housing.
We help you navigate the headlines, providing clarity and context to help you understand how today's events impact your life tomorrow.
The driver pulled out a gun. The officer opened fire, shooting at least one time.
The problem is worse in King County than any other part of the country.
Stay informed, stay connected with KIRO News Radio.
Hi, folks. Spike O'Neill for Integrity Roofing and Construction. If you have a leak, it's time for your roof to be examined, you want a free estimate, take a look. Call Integrity at 206-202-ROOF. That's 206-202-ROOF. They have been the business of the year in Kitsap County year after year after year. Integrity Roofing and Constructions, these guys really live up to their name. They use the very best materials. They do incredible workmanship. Their crews are nothing but professional, top shelf service. I couldn't speak more highly of Integrity Roofing and Construction. There are 206-202-ROOF or online at integrityrc.com.
Hi, this is Keith Dashafi, owner of Pella Windows and Doors of Western Washington. Are you ready to enhance your home with stunning, energy-efficient windows and doors? At Pella, we offer top-quality products with innovative designs and exceptional craftsmanship. And right now, we're offering an amazing deal. Enjoy 12 months with no interest and no payments, or get 40% off qualifying installs. My team is dedicated to helping you every step of the way. Visit PellaPNW.com to schedule your free appointment today. That's PellaPNW.com.
Mike Salk here, and you've probably heard me mention that Crawl Pros has a full-service pest control division called Pest Pros, and they can prevent bug and rodent infestations from reoccurring at your house. You probably also know that it's especially important to keep a close eye on any signs of pest intrusion in your home during the spring. Why? Well, let's start with rodents. They're at the peak of their reproductive season, so if just one makes its way into your house, it could quickly turn into hundreds, and then you've got damage to insulation, wiring, even structural features, not to mention they're disgusting and carry disease. You may also see an increase in bugs, especially ants this time of year, as they're just looking for food. But if you got kids, you know they leave food everywhere, so this can become an even bigger issue. If you have any reason to think you've got a pest problem, you want to take care of it quickly before you have a much larger problem on your hands. So call Pest Pros. They'll come in, do a free corner-to-corner inspection, just like they did at my house, and fix the problem. If you're worried that any type of critter is making a home of your home, call Pest Pros or visit GoPestPros.com.
Endless hours of research, seeking referrals, dozens of calls. Hiring the right attorney can be a challenging process during an already difficult time. JP Pendergast with Pendergast Law explains.
In Washington State, Tom, there are thousands of attorneys to choose from. Referrals and online research can be helpful, but discovering the right attorney requires a conversation. It can be hard to identify integrity and authenticity without that interaction.
So, what do you recommend?
We encourage anyone looking for personal injury representation to call for a free consultation with our team before making a decision simply based on referrals or online research. Accident victims need an attorney that listens, demonstrates honesty, and is genuinely understanding of their unique circumstances. The care, attention, and preparation that our firm provides throughout the case mirrors the effort involved when taking on the insurance companies.
Save time and avoid mistakes after an injury. Contact the caring and compassionate team at Pendergast Law.
If you or a loved one has been injured in a car accident, call Pendergast Law. We can help.
Are you putting off your new kitchen plans? Why wait? Hi, I'm Chad Cicchini, owner of Heritage Homecraft, and we've got an offer you're not going to want to wait for. We'll custom build you all new cabinet doors and drawer fronts, and using our exclusive 1/4-inch solid wood refacing process, transform your existing cabinets into a beautiful new kitchen. Add a custom quartz countertop, change things up a bit, add some more cabinets, install some cool new features like soft close drawers and sliding shelves. Whatever you like, we'll help you create the new kitchen you'll be proud of. All in about a week, and all with way less mess, hassle, and expense than a tear-out. Stop waiting. We're having a trade-in sale. You'll save $30 per door and drawer front off the cost of your new kitchen. Count them up and see how much you'll save. Years of experience, thousands of happy customers. Call today and let one of our pros come out and show you how easy and comfortable it'll be to get going on your new kitchen. Heritage Homecraft, 425-485-1600, 425-485-1600, or heritagehomecraft.com.
Terry is an athlete.
He's also 57 years old.
I've been doing marathons and triathlons since 1990.
And that's not all.
I started playing baseball last year, and when the season was done, my knees were just shot.
Terry suffered from a torn meniscus and cartilage damage, and that's when he decided to see Dr. Mark Wagner at Seattle Sports and Regenerative Medicine.
My wife says, "You're walking faster today." And I went, "Oh my God, I am."
Does it look like you'll be drafted for the next season?
Well, I'm already 2 games in to the new season, so I'm thrilled.
And just how thrilled is he?
So I'm a high school teacher, and I tell all my students, if any of your parents have bad knees, stem cell works.
Look at that. A true evangelist now, huh?
Yeah. So whether it's a shoulder, hip, or knee, before you choose surgery, consider stem cell therapy with Dr. Mark Wagner, MD at Seattle Sports and Regenerative Medicine. Get the facts, hear from all the patients I've talked to, and schedule your consultation at drmarkwagnermd.com.
Steel walk behind, zero turn, and stand on mowers are built to get the job done. Shop online or at your local Steel dealer. Steel, let's go mow.
Get up to $5,000 in local utility rebates, and Eastsiders save up to $6,000 with the Energy Smart Eastside program. Plus, Home Comfort Alliance is offering up to 10% off all heat pumps and air conditioning systems through April. Visit homecomfortalliance.com.
This Easter, we invite you to share your egg-siding creations with us. Hartley Wilcox here. Submit your beautifully decorated Easter egg photos to our Wilcox Family Farms Facebook page. Enjoying the community and celebrating this joyous holiday. For over a century, our farm fresh eggs have been a part of your cherished traditions. From our family to yours, we wish you a happy and colorful Easter filled with love, joy, and delicious Wilcox eggs. Wilcox Family Farms, locally fresh since 1909.
Welcome back, everybody. You know, every day we invite you to take part in the show to give your feedback on the stories that we cover, and the text line is 888-973-5476. That's 888-973-KIRO, K-I-R-O. Lots of you had great input today into the show. Mike Lewis filling in today. Thank you very much, Mike. Laura, why don't you start us off with today's read?
Me? Start us off?
Please.
Thank you. On Mike Lewis filling in, I don't think I've ever gotten this many excited texts for a fill-in host, so shout out to Mike. That Vicky says,
I just made sure I had all my family members texting.
These are all burner phones.
Exactly.
This is what you've been doing when you leave the studio. That Vicky says, Mike, I always enjoy when you're on the show. Hope you're here the rest of the week.
I am indeed here the rest of the week.
Brant in 360 says, how lucky can I be? My 2 favorite KIRO hosts, both on at the same time. Good to hear you. I don't always agree with you, but you are so smart and thoughtful about what you talk about. You are a pleasure to listen to, sir.
From 206, the A-team is in the house. Intelligent conversation and informed opinion. Thanks to everyone, and thank you, Laura, for being a great gatekeeper. I agree with that.
Yeah.
On raising state park fees by 50%, Jack says, remember when the state parks used to be free? I disapprove of raising Discover Pass prices.
From 425, I think the cost is okay for the pass, but how many parks are open and will still be open with all the firings of the National Park Rangers? Excellent question.
That's a very, very good question to ask. And we have to address the sloth in the room.
Yeah.
Apparently T and Conway let us know, as did Aaron Granul in that last newscast, that Slothy II has already been taken down.
And Cheryl says, make a game of it. Where's Slothy, a.k.a. where's Waldo? And just move him around I-5.
That'll reduce the distraction.
Yeah, right.
And maybe put a money prize on it as well.
There you go. We've often said if Slothy needs a home right here in the studio, we welcome Slothy right here in the studio. On a statewide rent cap, Mike and Rent says they can always move. People don't save enough to move. People don't save to move, though. Got to get the new iPhone.
From 360, my rent was $725 a month 5 years ago. It is now $1,695 a month.
I feel like that's a common story.
Yes.
206 says, cap rent increases at 7%. You guarantee a 7% increase every year.
From 564, you guys are forgetting that rent increases are also based on property tax increases, and that's entirely true.
Yep.
Sometimes.
Doug in Mount Vernon says it's more to do with the large corporate ownership of rental units and software estimating rental prices. That's true. There was an aggregating program that property owners used to calculate what their rent should be in a particular market, and that was driving every price up.
That's true. From 206, regulation in our state is the killer of affordable housing, and I make great money now, but still can't afford to live in Seattle. Not everyone can, and certainly not with the tremendous overhead to build in Washington. The last Seattle project I heard about was well over $500K cost to build each unit. That is not affordable.
253 suggests multi-generational households which foster respect for our elders. That's a big deal. I wish I'd grown up in a big old family home with everyone there and all others stopping by frequently.
I agree.
Yeah. On swapping Google searches for AI, Beth and Everett says users of AI aren't skeptical enough of the answers it provides. It's an environmental/flood hazard perimeter.
Oh, sorry. She says she's an environmental/flood hazard
perimeter. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I've lost count of the people who've pushed back on the county's permit requirements by saying things like, but AI says the code requires this, not that. They don't want to read and follow the actual code.
You know, as an aside on that one, I imagine that people in county are dealing with the same thing that doctors have been dealing with for years when people come in with their self-diagnoses from the internet.
WebMD,
and the doctor, you can hear their eyes start to roll back as you're starting to say, well, I looked this up on the internet and I think.
Thanks. 360 says, ask for peer-reviewed sources for deeper dives.
The tip on Washington's best beaches, and Ruby Beach tops a worldwide list. Mark on Whidbey Island says, Mike, it may not be hard to hike to the beaches, but isn't the drive to these beaches torturous?
But the payoff, is what you have to remember. From Greg in Seattle, I recall a visit by my future in-laws way back in the 1980s describing the Washington coast as primitive beaches and being perplexed, like, what the heck is a primitive beach? Visiting the Washington coast indeed leaves one feeling like that one has stepped back in time, unlike many coastal areas. I agree.
On a bill to raise the tax on cigarettes and ban flavored tobacco, 206 says, raise taxes on smokes. People quit. Then city cries about not enough revenue.
We got it. All right.
Yeah,
From Barry in Maple Valley, ban flavored alcohol to see how long that lasts. Actually, the ban on, if you had to ban, Fireball, I don't know that I have a problem with that.
I don't either. On Trump's military parade, Alan Lacey says a parade would cost taxpayers $113 million when Trump's talking about cutting waste. That seems ridiculous.
Kat in the 425 says, Trump's Jubilee.
And Mike, one more from you.
Oh, all right, one more from me. I'm actually going to, from Jeff, on game flyovers. Every military pilot has monthly requirements. A flyover satisfies two areas and provides advertising. Don't be a critic without info. I think that's fair info.
It is.
Odd that it has to be a flyover. It seems like you'd still be able to establish that flight credit, but I get your point.
Well, oftentimes they use that as required training flights. So there you go.
Yeah,
all right, thanks very much, everybody, for being a part of today's show. Mike Lewis is here today. He'll be back tomorrow. John Curley is in next. We're out of here. Goodbye.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Is your roof ready for more spring showers? If your roof springs a leak, Valentine Roofing has you covered with our Leak Stop Guarantee. We'll stop a leak in your old roof for free until the new one is safely installed by our best-in-class craftsmen. But don't wait for a roofing emergency. Schedule your free estimate now before you have the headache of dealing with a leak. With our spring priority scheduling, we can get your roof replacement started within just 3 weeks. For all your